Welcome to the Cognitive Crucible, produced by the Information Professionals Association. Our website is information-professionals.org, where you can find links and information about today's conversation and get access to members-only content. Join John Bicknell and explore all aspects of our generational challenge, cognitive security. The Cognitive Crucible is a forum that presents different perspectives and emerging thought leadership related to the information environment. The opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of or endorsement by the Information Professionals Association.
My guest today on the Cognitive Crucible is Tod Rathbone, who is a seasoned marketing strategist and agency leader with over 4 decades of experience guiding global brands and creative organizations through transformation and growth. He currently serves as a fractional chief strategy officer for Infinity Marketing Team and Reed Art Department. Tod Rathbone, welcome to the Cognitive Crucible.
All right. Thank you, John. Happy to be here.
So the conversation I'd like to have with you today, Tod, will cover the current state of digital marketing and influence and related topics. But before we start talking about all of this, could we start by getting your assessment of our strategic landscape, or if you prefer, the times in which we live?
Sure. So I think we have to start with the sense of evolution of how we got to where we are today, which the digital marketing space is essentially a commercial marketplace. It is defined by the idea of trying to build attention, build demand, build preference for commercial enterprises. That's been the main driver in the US for what we think of as the media marketplace. We talk about it being digital in the sense that all of it is digital now. Basically, the buying and selling mechanisms, the identity mechanisms, the nature of the content that we create, all of it is digital. All of it is accelerated. All of it has become much more powerful. All of it has become much more personalized. We are at the forefront of yet another huge change. So probably the first one would be, 1997 and the advent of true commercial internet and, things as early as AOL dial-up, then coming to 2006, 2007 with the double-headed whammy of both social media and powerful personal cell phones, and now the advent of AI. So what you've seen is the rapid growth of a highly mechanized, automated, and powerful system to put messages in front of people, to find people, to find groups for the sake of commercial selling. What has transpired is the nature of who runs that, who is in charge of it, how much control anyone has over it, the nature of how we're able to aggregate attention has become a very challenging circumstance. It used to be that we had a very dominant sort of public forum defined by mass media, defined by a limited number of access points, defined by a certain limited number of messages you could put out in the world. We are now at the point where with the internet, that is somewhat of an infinite space. And with the nature of the way the digital marketplace works, it's sort of a beast that can never be really fully fed. The amount of content, the amount of data, the amount of identity basically exceeds anybody's amount of budget to sort of own and operate it. What has happened since then is, what I would call the atomization of this attention ecosystem. So, we're dealing with trying to get to the individual versus masses. The only mass real place left is, you could say, the Super Bowl. It's the one last great sort of meeting of everybody, every type, every kind in one sort of moment. But with the advent of streaming, with the advent of social media, with the sense that, people are more likely to watch YouTube or stream something, a lot of our large media, avenues have eroded. And with the advent of AI, we've seen, an acceleration again uh, of how well can we manage this space, how well can we use it to identify things, and how well can actual human beings keep up with the speed and rate by which messages are being thrown at them. And the idea of what is real has become somewhat elusive. Uh, and I know in the security space that has to do with disinformation, but equally so with the sense of brands, with the sense of is that product actually real? Are those reviews real? Did people actually buy this? And we've seen an erosion of what's an authentic player? What's the truth of a situation? How do people feel about something has become very malleable in the recent ecosystem.
Hmm. Why do you say, I mean, this is not probably the top two or three things that you were just talking about, but why do you say that the Super Bowl is the last, I forget exactly how you put it, but the last
It's the
co
last
common
of,
gathering spot or something like
yeah,
this?
even to the sense of like, the number one movie this summer is a movie called K-pop Demon Hunter. It's currently on Netflix. It was supposed to be the number one hit for Sony, but Sony wasn't feeling confident enough that a theatrical release for an animated K-pop driven show for kids was going to work in movie theaters, right? The conventional way that we would go see a hit like Jaws 50 years ago, which absolutely took over everybody's summer. And lo and behold, it ended up being the number one hit. It is now made, you know, millions of dollars where it could have made billions of dollars for the fact that it was on Netflix. Ended up being a huge coup for Netflix, but you see in this where there's a lack of confidence that you can go out into the conventional spaces of attention and you would get enough of an audience to make it worth your while. Uh, the Super Bowl continues to be one of those forums where everybody sort of agrees we're all going to come together and watch it at once. We're going to watch it as a live event. We're not going to stream it in a series of episodes. We're not going to
Uh,
watch it later, recorded when I'm going to
right.
time shift it when I get off my shift. Um, so it is one of the last things that actually organizes around a live media event. Even our elections don't do that anymore. We used to, sit and watch conventions. Now the
Mm,
issue is, are
hmm.
conventions even going to be broadcast on live television? Now you see them showing up on streamers or sub channels or multiple smaller outlets because the attention is not there that a large commercial enterprise is like, yes, let's devote all our airtime to a large party,
Yeah.
convention. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
So these kinds of
Is
things
there
don't work in that way.
is there a sense as well that um, that kind of common gathering uh, is going away or gone for good, or it's certainly gone for good in the way that we used to understand it, or
Correct.
the way advertisers and broadcasters and people who care about this kind of stuff used to understand
Yeah. I mean, from an advertiser standpoint, from a brand standpoint, you don't have the convenience and the ability to get in front of a lot of people quickly and immediately. You have to aggregate a number of different channels, messages, audiences through a number of different outlets and basically build, your own audience where you
it.
can.
Mm,
There's no sort of easy way to do it. And that
mm,
means that you have a much more uh, diligent effort to try and actually identify cohorts of people that you feel are your people, to
mm,
try and own your own first party data of those who have bought from you before, to farm your own unique garden of those people you think are going to be the most advantageous for you to talk to,
mm.
so that you're not wasting money, because of course everything's become exponentially more expensive to actually try and reach people through the media.
Right.
um,
How does the concept of human attention play into this whole space? So you've mentioned it
Yeah.
before, but it seems like human attention is like a major uh, component, maybe even like the ultimate goal in all of this.
Well, we joke about the fact that, have we reached to true goldfish level attention spans? Goldfish are like what, 8-second attention spans. But
Yeah.
from what I've read,
Jeez.
there's no scientific evidence that people have actually lost their ability to be attentive. But what's clear is that the amount of input, distraction, and potential uh, ability to have five things going on at once has meant that from an advertiser's point of view, if you are trying to put a message out, you understand that people typically are on three screens at once. You know to run things with subtitles or narration or other things where the audio's down and you have to try and create a way to still communicate. You try and create situations where you're on multiple platforms at once because you realize that's how people operate. They're not just watching the show. They're on the show, they're on
Mm,
Instagram at the same time. They're also getting texts and emails at the same time. Um, and you see that with schools trying to mandate the fact that you have to have your phone basically put away because they're in an arms race of that kind of attention to keep people focused. But by the population's own admission, the idea of being able to sit and read, we're at historical low levels of reading,
hmm
for pleasure.
hmm
And it's just not the same ability to stay focused as we once were.
hmm Wow.
Again,
Uh,
it's not that you have less attention, but you just have way more uh, interesting things to pay attention to.
right, right. Um, uh, I wanted to, maybe transition just a little bit into uh, the some technological changes that are happening that you're aware of. So, in the world of advertising, as I understand it here, over the last, say, I don't know, 10 years, platforms such as Google, Facebook, others, I'm sure, use uh, pixels to identify who has been on their service when, and that was one of the key. To, could you explain, please, what pixels
Yeah,
are, what
yeah.
they've done historically, and then we can get into how that is
How
changing.
that's evolving. Yeah. So with the advent of the public internet, it quickly became an issue of this is yet another medium. We should be able to advertise on it. The idea of the display ad or putting something in front of you and knowing whether or not somebody actually saw it and whether or not they showed up later and bought something became a big issue for advertisers to know if their money was being used wisely or wasted. So technology was developed to basically track people and understand, did you see it? Did you click on it? Did you then follow through and actually buy something? That's known as dropping a pixel, which is basically an invisible marker put on, someone's identity, their IP, and following them through a series of actions and knowing whether they did or didn't, follow through with the ad. That technology that dates back to like the advent of the public internet back in the 2000s. But what we saw was a pushback from consumers and governments saying, it's become increasingly intrusive. Advertisers and media farms have become much more adept at following people. It's now an invasion of privacy. So you saw Germany, and California create data privacy laws that said you can't just track people. You have to give them the ability to opt out. You have to give them permission to not do it. You can't just do it as a matter of course. That changed some of the rules. That was back in 2008, 2009. And then um, you saw Google announced that they were actually going to eliminate the cookie because it was becoming problematic. There
Are
were
are
a
are
number of,
I'm sorry to interrupt, Todd, but are
yes.
pixels and cookies are
Same
those
thing.
synonymous? Really? Oh,
They're
okay. I
synonymous. Yeah.
did not realize
So
that. Huh.
dropping, the pixel is the physical aspect of code that actually gets used, but it's been known as a cookie
Ah,
colloquially in the
okay.
industry forever. Yeah.
I did not know
So
that they were the
following
same thing. Yeah.
the idea of like a cookie crumb. So you follow the crumbs.
Yeah. Huh.
And so that's where that comes from.
Huh. And so today on websites or yeah, I mean this has been for several
Couple
years.
of decades. Yeah.
Yeah. So, by the way, we're recording this on September 2nd, 2025. But yeah, so if someone, like a pop-up comes up when you visit a website for the first time saying, "Do you want to accept all?" I forget what it says. That's that's how background it is, but accept all options or accept all settings, or you can accept only mandatory, settings and whatnot.
Yes.
But so these cookies or pixels have different parameters that you can. That I mean, this goes to that opting in and out, I guess, that you were just
Correct.
talking about.
At this point, you're supposed to, as a consumer, be able to have options to not allow to be tracked,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
So example, when you get a new Apple iPhone, you can actually ask apps not to track you. You
Right,
can,
right.
as you say, when you are offered cookies, you can say accept all, reject all, or confirm my choices. You see different levels of how um, experience design has led to various easy ways for that to work or very
Mm-hmm.
challenging ways for it to not work. Because basically, from an advertiser or a brand's point of view, they really don't want you to opt out.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a theoretical thing too, because lo and behold, sometimes even though you reject, sometimes you magically still end up on a subscription list and you still end up being targeted. So it is not always an effective regulatory environment,
Mm-hmm.
but those are the outcomes of as I said, Germany, California, other legislative activities, industry trying to get ahead of regulation and various, and then the output of lawsuits around this. So it is more of a CYA kind of thing, and you see some brands actually behave very carefully around it. You see other brands not so carefully around it.
Mm.
But the fact is that Google was going to try and get rid of this as an industry. They were leading the elimination of this, and that you would have to work harder to create cohorts of people through like and kind behaviors, not directly identifying people, and gave up. It was too commercially troublesome to give it up. And
Mm.
so, they basically said, we've looked at it after 2 years and we're not going to. And suddenly the industry backed off and said, okay, we're going to keep doing business as usual because it's too lucrative and too hard to do it any other way.
Mm.
I mean, essentially it's, putting a tracker on your car. I mean, putting something in your wallet, following you around, instead of like trying to find you through, other means of surveillance.
What was the other way that that you say Google just
Yeah.
abandoned?
Well, it was basically a way to try and find behaviors through, let's say, if you were, it's like behaviors through metaphor. It's like, I like these kinds of things. Those people like those kinds of things. Let's try and identify people who tend to like these five types of things, and let's correlate a probabilistic relationship to they are more likely than others to purchase my product, and trying to create then um,
Hmm.
identity not based on direct knowledge of who you are and where you live.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
I,
that's a far less exact science. It's a far less, capable way of knowing whether or not you're the right kind of person to target or not.
hmm. Is it would it be proper or accurate to observe there that the pixel or the cookie methodology, which continues, is more of a well, I'm probably just restating what you just said, but it's more like direct evidence of of activity and potential interest in a topic or
Correct.
a vendor. It's like discrete, tangible evidence of a visit to a website,
Correct.
whereas what they were going toward was something which was more was
Inferred.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so and also just it's a crutch. It's been around, it's proven, it's not that hard technologically
Mm,
to do it. The entire ecosystem, the marketplace is built on it. So,
mm,
you're talking about dismantling and then re-engineering an entire, multi-billion dollar marketplace. That becomes a tough pill to swallow for
mm.
any number of industries who
Well,
rely
so
on this
yeah.
ability to get at you. Um, Pharma, insurance, anything that like has to basically work on subscribers, new growth, a new
Hmm.
group of people every month.
Yeah,
We need
yeah.
to, keep it going. And
Uh,
then,
huh.
that becomes a tough pill to swallow of dismantling something that
Huh.
works. It's like as if we said, hey, we're no longer not going to have commercial interruptions on television. We're no longer going to have that 30-second ad. It's like, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to rebuild the entire system of borrowed attention where I provide entertainment, and for that free entertainment, you sit and, watch,
Hmm.
which is what streaming is now. And you see streaming changing the economics because it's become more expensive. And so you see things where Amazon Prime is no longer going to allow borrowing identity. Netflix no longer allows sharing your logins. It's like,
Oh,
everyone's become much tougher about the idea of this is expensive stuff to build to create enough attention to then
yeah,
create some form of marketplace.
yeah,
Because in the
yeah.
end, these are marketplaces.
Right. It is. I'm sure that this has happening across platforms, across systems, but I can tell sometimes when there are uh, you know experimentations happening or there's changes in policy that
Yes,
I just wasn't tracking until the policy changes right in front of my face. And then this is probably a year ago now, but Amazon Prime videos and whatnot, went from no advertisements to these, two minute advertising blocks interspersed,
yes,
and it's just like, huh, that's a major change, and it's not what I'm accustomed to. And I guess providers like in this case Amazon Prime are, I guess, I mean they're always, I'm sure, A/B testing all kinds of stuff, but these, I mean some of this stuff is like going from like Coke original to new Coke, which a reference back into the mid 1980s for those of you who are like, what the heck's he talking about? Coca-Cola famously in the mid 1980s, seemingly without a whole lot of input from customers, just decided to change the taste of original Coke to like Coke taste, and people were like, "Boo, boo! What are you doing?" That was, and Coca-Cola quickly switched back, like, "Whoops, sorry, delete, delete, delete." Anyway, but these big, huge platforms are, well, like you said, they're they have to make money, and this stuff's
they have to.
expensive,
Yeah.
and so they're, I guess, constantly experimenting. Well, with how can we make that money while not losing our customer base?
Well, what you're going to experience in that same vein is the influx of AI, and as a consumer, you're going to see it as a customer on these platforms. So, for example, you're going to see if you're on Google, if you're on any Meta product, so WhatsApp or Messenger or Facebook, Instagram, if you're in the Apple ecosystem, if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, you're going to see each of them trying to encourage you to use AI, their branded AI products to help, quote unquote, help you ask better questions or find answers or use the tools. And you see it in the design of those interfaces on those spaces. Just look everywhere and every corner pop-ups. Hey, can we help you with that? Can AI help you with that? Can AI
Oh.
ask AI? Ask AI for that. Like, and so what you see is we are at the forefront of a major arms race around AI. All these platforms are spending billions of dollars in infrastructure, development time, talent, because they don't know where the end game is. There is no killer
Ah.
app for AI yet. It shows tremendous amounts of promise, as like electricity showed promise, as internet showed promise, but no one quite knows what is the thing that it will drive. Typically in America, capitalism is the number one payoff for any new technology first. Just people don't know which is going to be the thing that pops in terms of what actually creates a return on investment. Right now, it's just open-ended investment. So you see all these platforms trying to push it out as a use case to drive a sense of, well, it's being used, even if we don't know what the actual payback, whether it's in efficiency, productivity, some form of like greater product advancement or acceleration in terms of competitive capability. Don't know yet. And so what's interesting
There's
is
but there's a palpable or there's a sense amongst all of these major players, though, that getting there first is like key terrain or something.
correct. It is a land chase. It is like the Oklahoma land rush.
Mm.
They certainly, in the case of a company like Microsoft, they've been there before. They've win and lost various races before. So it's very clear, like you can never not chase when
Mm.
you're at the forefront of something as groundbreaking as what this technology can do. The thing is, you don't know what it does. It's currently highly unregulated. You have to just simply chase it as fast as you can in all directions. And so we'll see. And so where that
Oh,
affects
wow.
the idea of information and the marketplace and marketing is that you have an existing digital marketplace. It's being accelerated by AI. No one quite knows how it's going to accelerate what it does. Is it going to accelerate the idea of how you create the content that goes in front of you? Does it accelerate the idea of how it knows who people are and how to target them? Does it accelerate the actual trading and pricing of the marketplace
Mm.
so that the actual systems, are accelerated in terms of the amount of information that can be consumed? Nothing has happened at the point where it's destabilized or become changed. What people are clear is that it is going to change.
Wow.
It's just which way is it going to convert. And so
But
what you see is
are there hmm. So these large companies, I guess I'm thinking OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, Facebook, and so on. They're developing, or they've got an eye towards all three of those
all of it
uh,
because
uh,
let's say
levers.
we invented Steam today. And if you remember the advent of Steam, people tried to put Steam on everything.
Oh,
Let's
really?
see if we can do it with Steam.
Is that
Let's create a
right?
turbine. Let's stick a
Oh,
turbine in everything because it was the latest greatest thing. Electricity, the same thing. It's like apply it to everything and see what
like put some.
actually works
Let's
and see
sprinkle
whether or
let's
not
sprinkle
it's
some LLM dust on that. Like
yes.
you
And
have
then
C-suite
yes, yes,
executives like
yes.
throttling people like get me some LLM on this now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so you see it go from, basic LLMs into now creating agentic models. So you have agentic AI models trying to drive, sort of sub processes, right? So you have a smaller AI model working around a very particular thing. Like, let's say you want to estimate and quote and price things. Let's just build an agentic AI that just does that. We're a wood company and we want to build a better quoting system for like, 200 feet of, red oak. Like, can't we
Mhm.
teach an agent to basically do what these five guys do on the phone, so that we can be much faster and accurate around that? Yes, but garbage in, garbage out. You can only do that to the point that you can teach this agent like decades of experience, decades of knowing how this works. And even then, you know, the current state of AI is it could still hallucinate, it could still do things that are erroneous. Who's
Mm,
checking on that? But
right.
you're
Well,
at a arms race that is moving so fast that we're in the break it point. We're in
yeah,
the throw it at everything and see what works, see what flies, see what breaks, see what actually pays back. And that's been the
right.
part that's been the most elusive is what's going to pay back. You see companies making bets on personnel, talent, overhead, infrastructure, where they've cut things thinking AI is going to make it back. They don't know if that's actually going to happen. They don't know
Uh,
if those efficiencies are actually going to come. They think they're going to come. They think that AI plus, you know, a third less of the developers you used to have is actually going to produce the same amount of capability. Don't know yet. So we're in that sort of gold
yeah,
rush time.
yeah. Well, so circling back to a point you made a few moments ago now, I wanted to ask you, but I think it's relevant to all this. Um, with the Pixel conversation and uh, growing or gathering new audience or new purchasers, subscribers on a monthly basis is core to some of these business
Correct.
models, right? And that implies like real live human activity, new human activity. In order to fuel some of this e-commerce. Um, so my understanding is that a major deficit to some of this, or in order to fuel these foundational models, uh, organizations want, human data. As a matter of fact, there was an article. I'll see if I can find it and put it in the show notes. But I think that there's even a movement afoot to label uh, digital content as being like legitimately human generated or not. And
Right.
human generated
Right.
content is at a the AI companies put that at a premium because that is what fuels better model results. Do you kind of get what I'm asking
Yeah.
around all of
So
this? Yeah.
there, you know, the idea of how models learn is that they have to consume vast amounts of pre-existing information, whether it's all the art in the world, everything that's ever been written, every song that's ever been published. That's create a minefield of like, you know, like in kind, copyright, trademark, people who had original works, and suddenly me asking an LLM to reproduce something in the spirit of Taylor Swift, make a Taylor Swift song. It's like, and you know, it creates one based on knowing every Taylor Swift song that's ever been written.
Hmm.
Um, Taylor Swift has a reasonable, you know, platform to say, well, how is that okay? These are
Hmm.
my original works, right? That's true of everything.
Hmm.
Is that the only way models know is by basically consuming everything that's already been done. Um, so
Which is
one of the
which
premiums,
is created by flesh and blood people.
correct,
Yeah.
and in a lot of cases, you know, owned by people who put a lot of effort into it. So you have aspects that are changing where you have AI models that are now working in what are considered brand safe environment. So you create a sandbox that you're not feeding on the open internet. You're feeding on the stuff that the brand has fed it. So it can't go off and consume things that the brand would get in trouble for that are
Mm.
copyright.
Oh, wow.
You have models that create, you know, original things out of models not based on scraping and borrowing other images. Uh, and then yes, there is a movement to try and label things as produced by AI. I don't see how that is going to work though, because that's like saying, how do we know digital things from non-digital things? I mean, um, who's going to police that? Who's going to regulate
Yeah.
that? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not gonna happen. For all these things, it's been a matter of how does the population educate itself on what is real or not real? You have people who are very hypersensitive and aware. You have people who are completely ignorant, have no idea. Otherwise, phone scams wouldn't still work.
Mm,
People would quickly learn and adjust, and the population would be immune, right? As kind of like an immunization, but it doesn't work that way. Population's too large, and the learning curve is too high.
mm,
But what I see in the marketplace is that AI is going to accelerate a lot of what the content you see, which is affectionately known currently as slop, AI slop, where a lot of lazy stuff gets built, created, and put out there as content. Bad videos, bad images, bad voiceovers. It's not like unlike the internet when you used to have, content that was like cats playing on pianos. It's like cheesy, flying
mhm,
hamburgers. It's like the experimentation is going to go wild. We're going to see a lot of bad stuff, a lot of weird stuff. And because it's so new, everyone's going to push everything they can try and make it do.
mm,
But
mm,
in the hands of, uh, the idea of like technology, it is an accelerant. So the ability to understand, what people are doing on a website or what they're doing on Instagram or what they're doing in a marketplace becomes, infinitely more powerful because the amount of actual fundamental data you're able to consume and then make extrapolated insights out of it.
mm,
That's true of every large database that you can apply AI to is like, oh, wow, I can take millions of pieces of information and now create insights in seconds.
mm,
I used to have analysts. I used to have large programs that I had to write to actually try and understand how to understand what is meaningful in this
mhm,
large
mhm,
database. And that's what drives all of this marketplace. The pricing, the identity, the content, the idea of what's selling, what's not,
mm,
um, are all those millions of points of data. And so AI is helping people advance through that much more quickly.
mm. Well, so from a brand perspective, so I mean this my experience with this is several years old now, which means it's like might as well be the before times. But I recall that, brands used to have, maybe they still do. So that's my question. Do brands still have a challenge tracking consumers across apps or platforms? So, like
Or
for example,
devices.
yeah, or devices, yeah. So,
Yeah.
how has any technology helped with that kind of a problem, or how are brands looking at that these days?
So brands have gotten more sophisticated, and the technologies and companies that support those kinds of, there's a whole economy of companies that are there to serve brands in terms
Hmm.
of identity and trying to do these things. So you see more elaborate systems of trying to track people, trying to create mobile IDs, trying to create different types of IDs that then get aggregated in a database around like this ID on this space matches this ID on this space. So that's the same person.
Hmm.
It's that reductive, assembly of
Hmm.
what's called an identity map. And so then, John is these five pieces of identity, these IDs are all John.
Hmm.
So now we've got a household ID of John, and we've got John across his phone, we've got John on Sirius, we've got John on Google, we've got John, on Instagram. Like, okay, so you then start to see ads travel across platforms. If you find you're mainly on Google Spaces on your phone, on your home computer, on your TV, then guess what? You're going to find a lot of the same messages put in front of you because I can see you from a Google ecosystem or a Facebook ecosystem, so I can track you across Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook. You're in an Apple ecosystem, so I'm across, all your Apple devices. The biggest arms race right now is a lot of the largest platforms, which are also the largest pieces of our financial market right now, uh, with the highest, evaluations, are trying to create very large walled gardens
Mm.
around first person identity. The ultimate way to solve this is for you to be a subscriber, for you to be a member, for you to be a known person. You are
Mm-hmm.
that person at
Mm-hmm.
gmail.com. You are that person at apple.com. You are that person who subscribes to your Facebook identity or your WhatsApp.
Well,
That then becomes the
so
most secure way to know who you are.
uh-huh.
And I try and create an advantageous platform of convenience.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
your
yeah.
credit card. I know your credit card number. I know your address. You want to buy that thing? You can buy it in 2 seconds because everything
Right.
autofills, right?
What? So my understanding is that Apple, like say compared to the Google, app ecosystem, the Apple ecosystem used to be, I think at least, a lot more stringent or had a lot more rules to have an app in their app store compared to Google, which
Still
was
true.
a much more of an open coding environment. But anyway, but back to that your walled garden kind of a analogy, it does, so Apple is, interested in me, the ultimate user and consumer, obviously, but likewise, they're also interested in attracting apps and providers into their ecosystem. And is that something that they, for example, would offer these apps and providers of services like, hey, guess what? One of the many things that we offer you is, an environment where, viruses are less risky and stuff like that. But also, guess what? As being a member of our overall walled garden, you get these other, ad related benefits.
So it's interesting about what you're saying in terms of who you're talking about. So from a consumer standpoint, from a user standpoint, the idea is it's incredibly convenient. It's theoretically more protected, less scams, less threats, less viruses, right? That's the promise made. It's more protective in terms of your identity leaking out of the system. From an app who wants to be on the Apple ecosystem, the idea is that it's a lucrative audience.
Mm,
You'll make money, right?
hmm
You want to have your game show up on iPhones, then you are going to participate in our economy.
hmm
Um, Apple has traditionally presented a number of highly expensive and demanding contracts for you to do that. They've been sued by people who say this is a monopoly. You are essentially creating protectionist environments. We can't put competing pay systems on. We can't put competing anything on because
Ah.
you own so much of the system. We're not able to have it be, a real open, economic system. It's not
Oh,
fair to those of us who play, right?
this is why sometimes when you want to subscribe to a service via your phone, the service will say, "Hey, you need to go out to our website to make this transaction." Is that part of the deal there?
That's part of it, yes, because Apple charges such a huge premium
Hmm
for people to exist in that ecosystem. Now, in the beginning, that trade was worth it because if you were an upstart game or something, you were like, you pay to play. It's like the old days of payola. If you wanted to put your record on, AM on the top station, you paid to have it played. I mean,
Ah,
it's not
okay.
it's not dissimilar, right?
Uh-huh.
What I think other systems have found, what Google and Facebook and others have found is, or Meta, is that there's an aspect to that as things have matured of owning your own audience that
Mm.
is worth emulating. So you see Meta and Google and Microsoft creating more incentive for people to not come and go out of their systems, but to live inside their systems. The ability to own the identity and permission of an audience becomes your most lucrative selling point. You're essentially buying and selling a population who's willingly there, who is trading for the convenience and the belonging to be there. The next step of that is that they are then the audience that feeds the AI models. They are the unwitting participants in how models are going to learn what people do, right? Because you are a permission-based group within Meta or Google. Every time you use their models, you use Copilot or you use Gemini, you're teaching it So, but you're teaching it within the confines of a benign, this is helping me
Mhm.
environment. It's
Mhm.
helping me do a better search. It's helping me answer this question about how to take care of my lawn. It's helping me fix my refrigerator. Um, it's a benign kind of, for my own benefit kind of thing, as a lot of things in the technology space are to people when they first encounter them. Having my family on Facebook, a benign, wonderful thing in the very
Mhm.
beginning. No one thought it would be what it is today. Um, and so we're in the same space. But you are, let's be clear, you're teaching the model how to know you and how to know what people do. How do people shop for a car? How do we know what they're shopping for a car? How do we know when people are likely to be getting pregnant? What are they doing? What are the signals they do? They're indicating a certain frame of mind. They're asking questions. They're trying to understand something. Oh, we should start advertising to them about a thing they don't even know we know.
Right.
We now
Right.
know
Yeah. We
with a
start
huge degree of predictability, that is where you're at.
right
You're about
start
to have a baby. You're going to adopt a kitty. You're going to buy a new house. You're going to buy a new car.
uh,
You know, uh,
start
sorry.
yeah, like so what
How does
every
everything start? It starts with a search. It starts with a question. That is
yeah,
like who
yeah,
we all are.
right.
You just gave it all away.
Wherever whatever search you pop in, that is a goes into like a prediction of where you are on any number of sales funnels.
Correct.
Right.
And now where does AI take you on that? So
Right.
AI's ability now is to aggregate, contextualize, and determine it, in a much more evolved way. Because now it's got millions of points of data across millions of people who've done the very same thing. And it's like, yeah,
Right. Right.
a much more creepily astute understanding of what people are doing or about to do.
Right. Well, so like just yesterday or the day before in my chat GPT, I asked chat GPT a question about, you know, what is what is the what what have been the most recent like Fed rate cuts or the Fed rate history over the last couple of years. Well, that, like I said, goes into some sort of a suggestion on where is John Bicknell on various different sales funnels. On like,
Right.
getting a mortgage. Is John Bicknell
Yes, exactly.
considering
Does he want a new
getting
credit
a
card?
mortgage? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
immediately all the financial sales funnels are like, yes, he needs a loan, he needs a credit card, he's looking to refinance, he's hoping that he can refinance his house
Yeah.
because he's looking at interest rates.
Yeah, fire for effect on, mortgage funnel engage.
Hey, and then
Yeah,
ask the basic question, you versus anybody else. Well, if you're not asking the question, why would I spend money on you? The fact that you're asking the question, it's like, oh yeah,
yeah. We got a hot one. We got a hot
we
one
got a hot.
here. Let's go. All right. Well, this has been great, Todd. I guess I'd like to maybe wrap up. And I mean, we just got a couple of minutes here, but what is it that you advise people to do? Or like, I mean, let's just take it back to the consumer these days, or the user of today's technology stack of iPhone user,
Yes,
an Android user, whatever. John Q. Public.
right.
What advice do you give to people these days in order for them to be uh, a savvy, switched on 21st century member of society with respect to all
Well,
this that's happening?
let's start from the standpoint of most average people are not people in the intelligence and information space who are highly protective and understanding of like personal devices and stuff like that. So let's just,
Okay.
knowing your audience, let's
So,
separate that because that's
so
not the typical
stipulated.
population.
Yeah.
Not the
Okay.
typical population.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your uncle. Let's talk about someone else.
Okay.
So the idea is to create a healthy sense of skepticism, understand what's going on, understand that you are actually trading your valuable information for the sake of convenience. I mean, that's always what it is. For your ability to have things auto-populate, for your ability to have, autofill and not have to log in your password all the time. You're trading. So as long as you understand that, that's rule number one. Second, be suspicious and skeptical of things that you don't actually know. You have to understand, like, there are a lot of ways to sneak into your inbox, to sneak into your text, to sneak into everything. So it's like not everybody online is who they pretend to be. I know that sounds obvious, but it's hard to develop that filter for people who haven't kept up with like how
Mhm.
good things are. The advent of AI is going to make it even more creepy. And, we've all evolved as we've gone on with a sense of, oh, yeah, I've developed a better filter. I've developed a
Mm.
better thing. That's
Mhm.
a constant. And so the idea is it doesn't rest. You have to become even more astute at like, what does this look like? How does it sound? Um, Check yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't click on things. Check
Mhm.
yourself. Check. Where stuff is actually coming from. And I think, there are tools, there are spaces that if you want to isolate and create, a cleaner system, you can do that. Uh, you can create a more managed environment for yourself. But if you're going to participate in, you know, the digital marketplace and the internet at large, I mean, it's a user beware environment. You can't
Mhm.
sort of expect that you can manage it, that you can like lock it down, that you can
Mhm.
make it so, well fenced that stuff doesn't get through. You can create things that are less risky. You can, obviously just use burner phones your whole life, but like, that takes away a lot of the things people
Mm.
really enjoy about having a computer in their pocket. Um, but I think it comes from like, a healthy sense of knowing how this stuff works and how it
Ah.
you know takes advantage.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and not and just not, I mean, turning your phone off is sometimes the easiest way to you know stop it. Take a
Right.
break for a while.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
tracking, not
Yeah.
reading,
Yeah.
not knowing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this not this topic, but I need to have someone on to talk about just the physiological effects of phone usage. Like, I mean, there's all kinds of suggestions to, don't watch videos or don't don't be on your phone like right up to bedtime or not right up to bed.
Yeah.
You're in bed for hours with your phone, and then finally after doom
Can't
scrolling
sleep.
for it's like, okay, I'm gonna put my phone down. Don't do that. But like why, and what are the physiological effects of all that? So I mean that's part of this whole cognitive security information challenge that we're dealing with as well. But not so much the topic of this conversation. But do you have any quick thought on that or
Yeah, I think human beings are fundamentally ill-designed to handle the speed at which stories travel. We're highly narrative human
Mhm.
beings. And so when you see things where countries like India and other Southeast Asian, Philippines, they've had issues in the past where the speed of a rumor online travels faster than the ability to dispel the rumor, to determine if the rumor is true. And so what you see is like we can't race at the speed of the internet against a good story. If that story happens to be untrue, by the time we figure out it's untrue, it's too late.
Mm.
So the issue is, if human beings aren't, you know, sort of evolutionarily designed to have a stronger sense of, I question whether this is true, uh, they will be subject to reacting the same way we always do. If it was just one person coming up and saying, "Did you hear about this?
Mm.
This happened." Right. But that's the speed of a human being walking at 3 miles an hour coming over to you and saying,
Yeah.
I heard from this other guy that this happened. Instead,
Talking
it's
talking
like,
at talking at the fence post.
yeah, but there are some well-documented issues of like things getting out of hand, the rumors flying too fast, and people taking actions before they ever knew if it was real or not.
Hmm.
I think you're going to see more and more of that kind of like War of the Worlds kind of hype reaction where people freak out before they ever know it's true.
Hmm. All right.
And so
Well,
the issue is, where do you check that? Where do you know? If something really went rapidly viral that was not, that was dangerous or frightening, how would you quickly go find out if that's actually true? And that's where I think the issue
hmm.
of the speed of the internet plus you know the ability of AI to fabricate is like, wow. So how are human beings built to address that?
Yeah. Verify
And yeah,
information. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. So, some great questions for people to ponder as we as we trundle down this road here. I guess with that, Tod Rathbone, thank you so much for being a guest on the Cognitive Crucible, and would love to have you back on sometime. As as you continue engaging with this problem space as well.
Okay, thanks, John. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
The Cognitive Crucible is the only podcast dedicated to increasing interdisciplinary collaboration between information operations practitioners, scholars, and policymakers. To find out more about the Information Professionals Association, visit us at information-professionals.org. Please support our podcast by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review.